Hi, my name is Akshaya Sivakumar and my designation is Associate Director Product Management. So I would say it is being a problem solver, right? Whether it's building a product or it is building a new technology or it is building a financial solution for anyone, what you need to do or have is a problem solving mindset. And the problems you face on a day-to-day basis will be different, which just makes it more exciting. The most challenging part of designing a product is being able to put yourself into a variety of other shoes. So your users, your stakeholders, regulators, especially given that we are in a financial domain. I think that is the most difficult part because you have to keep your emotions, your feelings, and your familiarity of the product away, even though it is your baby. I think there would be two key skill sets that you need to have. One is a very strong execution mindset, right? As a problem solver or someone who's building a product, what you need to be able to do is get things done, which means you interact with a lot of people who will help you build the product, even though you're not building it with your own hands. You need to be able to speak to them, understand where they're coming from, and still get everyone on the same page. So there's a strong execution mindset. The second is, I think, a lot of resilience. When you are working on a product that is going to be used by millions of people who you don't know, and it takes a team of sometimes 10, sometimes 50, sometimes 100 to build it, there will be roadblocks, there will be obstacles, there will be many differing points of views. Being open-minded and still herding the team towards getting the product out requires tremendous resilience. So I think these two skills are probably the make and break for being a good product manager. So I think this is probably the one reason why I chose to become a product manager and shift into this domain very recently. I've always prided myself in being a very good bridge, right? Which means that you're able to speak different languages based on what your stakeholders understand and then still bringing them all on the same page. Even though this is a difficult task, this is the most enjoyable part of also being a product manager because it really pushes you out of your comfort zone. You really come to know what are differing points of views which you wouldn't have thought of, right? And there is a tremendous learning when you do this, and when you actually kind of execute this process, there is tremendous learning. That is actually the fun part of my job. And to go along with this is, you have good colleagues to work with, they become friends because you're down in the trenches solving a common problem. So when you make those friendships over and above the work you are doing, it's just like the cherry on top of the cake. Okay. So I'll start from around 8.5 years ago, freshly minted out of undergrad and B school. I started off as a banker doing mergers and acquisitions, a lot of long hours and very cutting edge work. Did that for a very few months before I decided that my calling was to be in a very data driven and numbers heavy role. So I moved to Goldman Sachs. I was a quantitative financial professional there for roughly 3 years, solving a lot of really important regulatory problems that all investment banks were facing. And it was all new work, right? Work that has not been done by anyone else before. So that was where I kind of honed my skills. I then realized that I needed to pick up something else to become more successful, which is a client focus, as opposed to always being numbers driven. So I transitioned to being a strategy consultant, working very closely with like the top conglomerates in India and also from Japan on how do you enter India as a market and how do you succeed in the Indian business environment. That's where I learned the importance of client focus and just tailoring your messaging, tailoring your narrative to different audiences and knowing how to weave a story. Right? So I did that for 2 years, very exciting. The highlight of my time there was to present to the board of Tata Sons. And then 2 years down the line, when I felt I had a handle on things, I decided to come back to my home comfort base in Goldman again, to be a quant professional, right? But by then, I had realized that my calling was to be a bridge. So I could, very easily, as easily as I am able to speak to an engineer, I'm also equally easily able to speak to a PhD in math or computing or in physics, and then kind of translate their needs, requirements, their understanding of a financial product to a trader who actually trades it and understands what the market is like. And being that bridge was actually very, very rewarding, because you understand the technical challenges of what you're trying to do, but at the same time you understand the market constraints, and marrying them together is where you build your execution, your consensus building skills. So I did that for 3 years, and in January earlier this year, I realized that I've worked my entire life in really big companies which have organized systems, processes, and in general move slowly. So the way I think about a company is whether they're an elephant or a cheetah. So I've generally worked in elephants, which are large but also powerful, but move slowly. And I wanted to get the thrill seeking of working in a company which is like a cheetah, which moves faster and is more nimble, probably not powerful from a sheer strength or weight, right? And that's where you learn to operate with less resources. I also wanted to get a sense of the Indian ecosystem as opposed to serving overseas markets. So coupling both of this together, the ideal space for me was to be in a fintech, there is finance, but also India-focused fintech. I already had the skill set of a bridge, and therefore, and also an aspiration to continue on that on those lines. And the only real place in a fintech or in a technology but product company that you fit in is as a product manager, right? When you bring that skill set of a problem solving mindset. So that's why I kind of looked around, picked Simpl, liked the E team that works here, liked their attitude towards how they're building a business, really like the culture they've built, and then decided to switch earlier this year. So it's been around 5 months for me, and mostly loving it a lot. And really happy I made the switch. Yes, so a lot of interesting things going on in the product world right now inside Simpl. As folks are already aware, I think Simpl is a 6-year-old company, which means that a 0 to 1 journey of sorts has been done, right? And you have hit a level of product market fit. You have hit a lot of active users who are, therefore the viability and the value of the product. But this is where I think any company hits like that tipping point, or like a hockey stick kind of growth, where it's all about scaling, it's all about growing, probably even outshining your competitors, right? What is important to realize there is what brought you till here is just doing the same thing is not going to get you where you want to go. You will have to focus on systems and processes. You will have to focus on scalability. You will have to think about downside risk, right? And you will have to build for it. At the same time, you also shouldn't be complacent. So there should be a part of the team or the company that works on another 0 to 1 initiative, that works on another new product, right? And you're constantly evolving. So what the product team is trying to do as a whole here is kind of maintain the right balance between scaling up products that we already have and make us money, but at the same time building something extraordinarily new. So there are people who put on hats of this nature every single day and keep switching. Earlier today, I was thinking about what processes can I build, right? And what kind of streamlined systems can I educate people in Simpl about, so that I can onboard a merchant easily. At the same time, I'm also thinking about a completely new contest we are running, which we've never done before. So every single person in the product team is switching on between these two hats. And I think it's a very exciting place to be in. So I've spent the past 5 months really peeling away layers out of this question, because I think when you want to understand a 6-year-old company and what they're trying to solve for, right now versus in the future, it's an evolving question, right? As I peel back further and further, what I realize is that what we are trying to do is be an enabler for e-commerce. in India right now, but just be an enabler, right? And I think being that enabler or facilitator is where most good businesses succeed. How exactly we are trying to do it is obviously new products that we will keep launching, or it would be new initiatives that we're already doing or we would do in the future. But I think end of the day, what we want to do is bring a level of comfort for a predominantly non-internet comfortable population in India to be able to really leverage commerce or money making that happens online, right? Which is where the future is. So being an enabler for that growth and being a partner for people trying to do it is, I think, our goal. Yes, so that's an interesting question. So I've been in the engineering / product environment for the last 14 years. Have in most part of my career, I have been the only girl at the table or in any room or in an entire class or a department, right? It's not easy, but it's also equally rewarding once you kind of hit a level where you get confidence, right? So I think as a journey, even though it is tough, the most important thing is to maintain that confidence, try to build a network of people who would champion your cause, and at all times remember that diversity has a need in every place, and the experiences that we as women go through in our personal lives or outside of work do play a very tangible role in terms of decision making where you work, right? And that is important. For me, as a very junior person, or for say the first 5 to 6 years in my career, I did not realize what that value was. But it's only when I hit a level of, say, managerial responsibilities or higher level decision making responsibilities that I realized there is a difference in how problems are viewed, in how mistakes are viewed, in how growth is thought about, right? In terms of how career is shaped. And I think that it is important that more and more women take up their place instead of leaning back, right? And it is hard. Like, there are fights, there will be contentious conversations, there will be a feeling of getting left out, but it doesn't stick for long if you're good. The advice I would give is, I think the first is be very, very good at what you do. Focus on that. And spend some time really honing what you think you want to do and you should be succeeding at, right? It could be you want to be the best person who writes code in a room, or it could be that you are the person who speaks the best in a room in terms of communicating ideas and thoughts, or it could be the person who designs the product really well, right? Or it could be the sharpest math brain in the room. That is fine, but think about what it is that you want to excel at, and focus and fixate on it and get to that level, right? At the same time, in the journey, do not forget to do not let only your work speak for itself, but also make sure that you get in front of the right people, you get in front of the right eyes to have your cause championed, right? And if your work is good enough, that will happen, but keep that in mind. The last is, again, a very late realization for me, but build a network of mentors and supporters who will champion your cause. It could be people higher up in the org, it could be people in competing companies, it could be seniors, alumni of your institute, but build that network. You wouldn't know why it is useful until you need it. And I have figured that at least I have started needing that support group around 7 to 8 years in my career after I started. So it takes a while to invest and build it, but when the rewards start coming out of it, it's actually very, very useful. And pay it forward. Be a mentor for new kids as well. So I have been interviewing for folks to hire in any place that I've worked in my team for the past 4 years odd, right? So 50% of my career. What I've realized with having worked with a lot of people as well as interviewing is there is always a sense of knowledge and domain that you look for, but much more important than that is attitude and aptitude towards learning, right? Those are the ones who have found are A, very good employees, right, which is a given, but B, the ones who are a pleasure to work with, right? Like I said earlier, we have uh, resilience is very important. You will face obstacles at work. What you would like is people around you who are able to roll up their sleeves and say, hey, we can solve this, hey, we can fix this, it's possible, let me try how, right? That is what I like to call a can-do attitude, like an aptitude for learning and picking things up. I think those are the two most important things. Other than that, depending on the role you're hiring for and an expertise that you're looking for, yes, I do look for people who have done something exactly like that in the past, but that is usually never the single most important success factor. What the person should be able to do is adapt to very unique circumstances and people in every place that they work at, and have this attitude towards, oh, I can do it, I want to learn, I want to pick this up. Most likely than not, these people will succeed, right? They're a pleasure to work with. You give them a problem, they will not give you another problem. They will come with a solution or a proposal. And that is in general, if you have enough percentage of people like that in an org, that org generally succeeds, right? So that's what I look for. That's also one of the things that I pride myself on, given that I switch domains very frequently in terms of where I work. Right? But it is not really in any meaningful way hampered my success, right? Because you have that attitude towards picking things up and learning, even if you haven't done that exact thing before. Good. It has been good. It's been 5 months, which means per my own timelines, I think I am out of the honeymoon period where you come into a place, everything is new and fancy and very shiny, so you want to learn. At around between the 4th and 5th month is when you A, find out where the bodies are buried, and B, you mostly like what you're doing, but then you also realize that there are problems to solve. There are things that you may not always agree with, right? And things that you may want to push through and get done. So that is where I am at right now. I think that is a general phase that everyone goes through. But it's been good in terms of the receptiveness of thoughts here, right? In terms of ideas and wanting to get things done. There's a lot of freedom when you say, and you have good intentions on why or what you want to do. That freedom is good. So I'm hoping I kind of go past this, let's say, plateau towards where you unlock and get really exciting things done. Yes. So I am a problem solver here more than a product manager. I somehow seem to gravitate towards interesting problems that are there that can be solved, and there's no dearth of those in Simpl, right? Because we're a growing company, because there are so many new things we want to do, there are always going to be places where we can do it better, and that's what I somehow seem to either attract towards myself or gravitate towards. So a few things that have kept me busy or will keep me busy for the next month are, a new thing that we're building and we'll release shortly. B would be making our understanding of our merchant base much better, so we can actually give them a much better experience, right? Than they have now, just make it even better. I also have an affinity towards numbers, so I look at pricing models and cost optimization problems as well. All of these are extremely disparate things to do, but when you have this kind of variety in your life, you can't really go wrong. So my favorite part of working in Simpl is how friendly most people are over here in terms of percentages, in spite of how busy they are and how much of time they take out of their life to teach you. Right? So I find that really important, because I approach a problem with the attitude that I know nothing, explain it to me like I'm 5. There are plenty of people and more here who will actually explain it to you like you're 5. That's what I like the most. The one thing that I think people wouldn't know about Simpl is there's actually a very dense amount of talent here in terms of what people have accomplished in their life before they came here, or say where they've gone to school, or what kind of life experiences that they've had, right? That kind of diversity is really important when you're building a product that no one else has built before, right? Or hasn't really been solved for in the market. So what I really like when I kind of turn off my work hat and I get to know the person behind the Zoom screen, or even the work persona, is where they're from, what do they do in their free time, you know, what kind of experiences have they had. So we have, folks who have done so many different things. We have like dropouts who went and studied, many years later after really hitting professional success. Kind of makes you realize that, diversity and talent don't really stick, there aren't any markers for it, right? You'll find it everywhere and you should have an open mind to learn. That is probably something I don't think most people realize a startup would have. New and young. So this is, credit to my manager who has been super invested in what I want to do in the future, right? And the one thing he told me that I think reflects what I've also been trying to learn is you need to learn how to navigate an organization, because it is people who make it an organization, right? So for most folks who would, that we are familiar with, they come with a lot of technical grounding, you come with a lot of education, you come with a lot of theoretical and paper knowledge. But the key to getting things done in any place, whether it's in Simpl or whether it's in an organization outside which is very big, or it is in government, or it is in school, or in your family, or in your own community, is to know how to navigate people and navigate the org so that you're able to achieve your goals. At the same time, help others achieve their goals as well. The best advice that I have ever given someone is have a can-do attitude and never shirk away from hard work and diligence. Like putting in the hours at the beginning of your career in general has a compounding effect, just like saving money in the beginning of your career. You will see the results much later. It doesn't appear upfront, but that is the single most important piece of, I think, just an approach to life that I have given a junior. So, while technological innovations have been around for a decade now in India, where there is so much new stuff that's going on, I think what really excites me is the underlying monetization and economics of using those technologies. I have always had a business bent of mind, and doing something just for the sake of it being innovative or for the sake of it being interesting has never really held much sway with me. So what I find very, very fascinating in the Indian ecosystem and across the world as well is how technology is powering many disparate fields right now. I was recently even reflecting that 10 years ago when I studied marketing and sales, it was supposed to be a foot on the road and foot on the ground game. But now when we think about marketing and sales, it's largely powered by technology. It's largely powered by, very specific marketing and targeting tools. It is very specifically, driven by analytics. That is what I find very interesting. And I also find very interesting that there is a need in the market for technologies and solutions like this. And there is an intent to pay for utilizing them. So when I think of what interests me the most in this ecosystem is to see what startups are doing, how are they getting people to open their purse strings for them. A lot of hard work, and also I think being okay in the face of uncertainty of where you are going with the hard work. So I think there's two here, one from a more personal standpoint and one from a more professional standpoint. 5 months ago when I joined, we had a very big offsite, and I was actually 3 days into the firm, and I was tasked with building out a team on the merchant side for products. And my manager, I think A, had a lot of confidence, but B, also had a little bit of humor in letting me talk about my vision for the team in front of the whole company, right? And this is 3 days after I joined. The interesting thing was there's obviously a lot of pressure, but then you also feel like there's really not a lot that you can go wrong with, because even if you're wrong, you can say I'm only 3 days into the firm. But the support that I got in terms of the vision and the roadmap I had was incredible back then, right? Obviously priorities change, but back then and even now we want to execute what I was talking about, right? Because it made sense. I think that was very, very interesting, where you are empowered to make decisions like this. On a professional standpoint, yes, that has been, I think, the token of confidence is, it is rare, but when you get it, you should grab it, right? So it's very interesting. On a personal standpoint, I think just 2 days into the offsite, I wanted to learn how to play poker, and the whole E-team, including the founders and the founder and the CTO, everyone came together, and they made it their vision that evening to teach me how to play poker. And I did learn, and I did win a game later. So that from a personal standpoint kind of made me feel like this is a fun place to hang out and work. You might make friends. Yes. So this is one of the things I think will keep a person tied to Simpl, when I think just like any other job, you have good days and bad days. On the bad days, you have a support network here, which is not just people who are willing to hear you rant, but incredible amount of things that just showcases the talent and the diversity of the people that we hire. 2 clubs that are really close to my heart are the quizzing club that I started and I run here, but super impressed by the quality of talent in terms of quiz masters as well as quiz answerers, the quiz question answerers. We have a book club that is kind of mostly regular. We are on the 3rd chapter now. And we have a variety of other things. We have F1 clubs, we have puzzle clubs, we have badminton clubs. So there's always a way where, when you have a good day, it's fine. But when you have one of those off days, you still know it's okay to be friends with and just hang out and recover from those days just with the people at work. It's important. We spend a lot of time here, speaking to folks, with our colleagues. It's good to know that they can be friends beyond work. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to make some of those friendships here. Thanks a lot.